Hello everyone, and welcome to Arknights from Text to Tale. In this episode we're going to cover the first side story of the game and the first part of the A-Gear glimpse from the depth story arc, Grani and the Knight's Treasure. Let's begin. The story is set in rural Kazimierz, in and around a remote mountainous village known as Dewville. Kazimierz is a country located to the west of Ursus, inspired mainly by the real-life country of Poland. It is inhabited primarily by Kuranta, a race of people with horse traits. It's formed mostly of grasslands and is a confederation of feudal chivalric orders led by the Grand Knight. The story begins with a cruel scene. Carol, a young Kuranta girl, is being held hostage by some bounty hunters. She is tied up and left hanging in the sun without food or water, as an attempt to make her talk about some treasure's location. She isn't budging though, so bounty hunters decide to leave her there for longer. Their plans are, however, interrupted when another young Kuranta girl appears, wielding a pike. She fights off the bounty hunters, frees Carol, and takes her to a nearby village. After a small time skip, we see some bounty hunters looking for the two in the said village. They go around the place asking every villager if they saw them and threatening them to better not be hiding them inside the houses. As it turns out, that is exactly what's happening, and the girls are hiding in a hut of a villager by the name of Luke. After the bounty hunters leave, they talk for a bit. Luke and Carol mistake the unknown girl for a Kazimierz knight, so she introduces herself as Grani, a member of the mounted police of Victoria, a country to the north of Kazimierz inspired by real-life United Kingdom. Victoria does have knights, but she isn't one of them. She explains that her family actually comes from Kazimierz, but her ancestors emigrated to Victoria. The reason she came to Dewville is that she received the village's request for aid. A little while ago, some bounty hunters were lucky enough to find some knight sarcophagus along with a chest full of golden coins. This caused a rumor to spread about nice treasures being hidden around the village, and many bounty hunters have gathered here to search for them. For a while, they simply used the settlement as a base of operations while searching, but then some new rumors came that villagers knew the treasure's location. This is when the harassment started, and the chief of Dewville, that being Carol, sent out some requests in desperation, as the village is too remote for the government to take interest in their peril. In that moment, bounty hunters come back and Grani decides it's too dangerous to stay in Luke's house and that they shouldn't drag more innocent people into this. So they go find a cabin and hide in its attic, where they continue to talk. Carol reveals that, as a chief of Dewville, she does actually know where the main treasury is, as it is passed down by every chief to the next one. The reason she was held captive by the bounty hunters is that they started to destroy their farmlands, mills, warehouses, and other important facilities of the village. So she told them she knew the location to protect other villagers. Grani decides they need to leave the village and find the treasure, then use it to get rid of the bounty hunter problem by hiring mercenaries and fix the damage caused by them. She instructs Carol to look out the window to assess the situation, but what she sees is a person flying by it. The mysterious figure quickly defeats all the bounty hunters while speaking Aegirian and asking about her whereabouts. Grani recognizes the Aegirian as one of her co-workers, wondering if she's here on some other mission. She decides to use the opportunity to quickly escape Dewville with Carol. As they leave the cabin, they stumble upon some bounty hunters who are hiding from the Aegirian at its entrance. Grani forgets herself in a humorous way, since they are so polite, and remains quiet until the mysterious bounty huntress leaves, after which the hiding bounty hunters immediately recognize Carol and attempt to capture them. The two are getting surrounded, but suddenly a flashbang is thrown at the bounty hunters and a big man in armor asks Grani to follow him quickly out of the village. Carol leads them to the woods on its outskirts, where they discuss the current situation. The man introduces himself as Big Bob, a bounty hunter, and, to show good intentions, lays down all his weaponry in front of him. He states he hasn't harassed any villagers in order to find the treasure, considering it greedy, idiotic, and inefficient, believing it is much better to simply cooperate with the chief. He wishes to work together with Grani and Carol, providing his expertise in various survival crafts as well as combat prowess in exchange for sharing some of the treasure. Grani and Carol discuss in private whether they should agree to work with him. Carol is distrustful due to Bob being a bounty hunter, but admits she has not seen him in the village before, so his statement about not harming Dewville is most likely true. She asks Grani if she could possibly ask the Aegirian bounty huntress from before for help if she's her coworker. But Grani has her doubts, as the huntress is hard to get along with, is a bounty hunter herself, and she would rather have more things under control before contacting her. She believes that while working with Bob is risky, they might need his help, so she convinces Carol to agree to cooperation. In the meantime, captain of the bounty hunter gang that was beaten up by the Aegirian a moment ago sets up an ambush for her in the forest. The group starts moving towards Mount Terra, which is on the way to the treasure's location. Big Bob guides the other two through a route that will avoid as many bounty hunter groups as possible and checks for traps on the way, already proving his usefulness. However, they are soon caught up by the Aegirian huntress, whose name is revealed to be Skadi. Grani greets her, but is only met with the demand to hand over the Dewville chief. Grani answers she can just do that, but before she manages to say anything else, Skadi attacks her. Big Bob orders an escape and the group attempts to flee from the huntress. Unfortunately, the rumors about her monstrous strength and stamina were true after all, and she catches up to them eventually. The situation is saved by the group accidentally running into the place where Captain and his group set up the ambush for Skadi. The group uses the sudden chaos to get away from her. When they get a moment to catch a breath, Grani notices Bob's leg was injured in the ambush and decides to patch him up. Bob is reluctant to let her do that, as it turns out he's an infected, crystals showing on his now exposed leg skin. Grani then reveals that she isn't actually an active member of the mounted police, and she has joined Rose Island and acts as its operator. The group reaches a tunnel leading through Mount Terra and closer to Mount Mortica, where the treasure lies. They take a short rest there, which brings about a debate between Grani and Bob. It starts with the topic of Skadi, of how the rumors about her were true, and she's truly monstrous. Bob then rants about how Rose Island enables a person like that, doubting their objective of aiding infected. As someone stricken with oripathy, he hasn't seen Rose Island do anything as of yet, and thinks their true motives are purely monetary. Grani answers that Rose Island does their best, but simply can't help all the infected because of their shortcomings. Bob scoffs, deducing that, in that case, Rose Island is simply useless. And that, while he believes Grani follows the lofty ideals she mentioned, the same certainly cannot be said about Skadi, to which she says she trusts Rose Island with the recruitment of her operators, and the huntress must have her reasons to behave this way. Bob seems somewhat satisfied with this answer and decides not to push his bounds any further. They have a little bit of friendly banter about the treasure and then start moving again. When they get further into the tunnel, they meet an unexpected obstacle. Two reunion members encountered a bounty hunter who tripped and fell in panic before them. They notice the group and more members show up to intercept them. The members are many and the group is struggling. Big Bob decides to hold them here while Grani and Carol move forward, since he can't get away with his injured leg, and promises to find a way to meet them later. As they run towards Mount Mortica, sounds of battle can be heard in front of them as well. When the two girls reach the entrance to the cave in Mount Mortica, Carol reveals that the treasure is in its deepest part. Grani decides she will stay at the entrance to fend off everyone that would try to enter. Carol, with hesitation, accepts this and goes in to retrieve the treasure. As Grani is blocking the entrance, suddenly Skadi appears and breaks open a new hole into the cave. She then demands Carol's whereabouts from Grani again, and when denied by Grani, saying she can do that without more information from her, and Carol's safety being her priority, the Aegirian bounty hunter attacks her. The fight, however, is interrupted by the captain's group again swarming through the new opening. Grani jumps over the bounty hunters and decides to rendezvous with Carol inside the cave. Skadi, on the other hand, starts taking out the gang once again. On the way to meet Carol, the ex-officer finds a beaten-up bounty hunter, wondering what happened if Skadi is still at the entrance, but soon her wondering is answered. Big Bob is the leader of the reunion group looking for treasure. He explains his motives. He and his brothers got infected a few years ago. They joined reunion hoping for a change in how they were treated since then, but that didn't happen. Her final plan to improve her lives as infected is moving to Colombia, a country based on the real-life USA, where infected are allowed to create communities and own land. When they heard about the treasure, they knew they had to act. They need the money to emigrate there. At that moment, Skadi catches up and asks for Carol again. The three sides of conflict argue for a bit. Grani is unwilling to give up Carol or the treasure. She doesn't know what Skadi wants to do with the girl, and she agreed to only share a portion of the treasure with Bob, who now wants more of it because he needs some for his brothers too. At that moment, Carol comes running from the depths of the caves because she has found the treasure. Unaware that Bob is now hostile, she runs too close to him and he throws an explosive at her. Skadi quickly jumps in and guards her. As it turns out, the explosive was a fake. As Bob doesn't want to hurt the girl, it was just a threat. Seeing this event, Grani realizes Skadi is neither after the treasure nor wants to hurt Carol, to which the Igerian says she just needs an answer she holds. Grani is completely flabbergasted by this, wondering why she didn't say so in the first place. As it turns out, Skadi is just a really awkward person and decided that's for the best since she didn't want others to get caught up in her mission. Well, that didn't work, did it? With that, Grani comes to an agreement with her, since they both care for Carl's safety as of now, and prepare to face Big Bob and his group, with Grani notifying Skadi to try and not hurt them too much. The reunion group can't match Skadi's prowess and are promptly defeated, with Bob yielding, saying they're fighting for survival, so it wouldn't make sense to just die here. Once the battle is over, Skadi immediately tells Carol to step away from the treasure and give her the key, explaining that if she tries to use this key, it will cut open her hand and drain her blood, resulting in her death. The treasure is set up in that way, and if it drinks blood of someone not of the Kuranta race, it will break. Carol still decides to try and open it for the sake of her village, but is stopped by Grani, who takes her place. The blood drains from the girl and she faints, but ultimately survives. A few days later, Grani and Skadi assemble in front of the bounty hunter gang hideout. They talk shortly. Skadi doesn't really wanna be here and just wants to go back to Rose Island, but is doing this to return the favor of getting the key and activating it by filling it with Grani's blood. They attack the bounty hunters and banish them from the village's perimeter, making Dewville safe again. After that, they go to meet up with Carol and Big Bob. Bob thanks Carol and Grani for giving him the rest of the treasure after the costs of repairing the village. He gives Grani one of the gold coins as a keepsake, and everyone says their farewell. A few months later, he sends a letter to a mysterious person in heavy armor who he refers to as Mudrock. In it, he talks about recent events. Since getting the treasure from Dewville, he and his brothers settled down at a manor in the outskirts of Colombia. They became self-sufficient and are planning to start growing hops to start a brewing business. He then moves on to say that he changed his views on certain things, knowing Mudrock also held some opinions about this too. He has discovered that Reunion isn't the only place the infected can go to, and he knows that when the time comes, Mudrock will choose what's right for them. He ends the letter with saying he misses Mudrock a lot and that he hopes he will see them in Colombia one day. Mudrock, reading the letter, simply says, "We're glad to hear it." Now, while the main plot of this story is over, there are some bonus scenes left. Some of them pretty important. The first one happens in Rose Island Infirmary. Skadi visits another huntress known as Spectre. Spectre has gone insane a while back and suffers from severe amnesia. Large amounts of originium in her spinal cord have been found and are accredited to this state of hers. She just woke up from a nightmare, one she keeps having. As she describes it, dark fragments swirling in her consciousness hidden beneath the shadows of that broken church. When she approaches them, they turn into shackles and drag her down into the deep sea. Skadi answers that soon there will be a way to escape her torment. Spectre notices a familiar smell on Skadi, an intense, pungent smell of blood of them of the deep sea. Spectre wonders why Skadi is here. After all, access to her is heavily restricted because of her violent outbreaks. Skadi doesn't answer, saying she needs to get ready to set out again for another mission. When asked where she is going, she simply answers to a place where the secret is buried, far away from her. The next bonus scene is of Nerl writing a letter to Grani. Nerl hails from Kazimierz, and used to be a knight there, so she shares some valuable information there. There is a cluster of knight tombs around Dewville, but we already know that. She shares some insight into the burial tradition of Kazimierz. Knights are often buried with some riches, but also with various other artifacts, such as weaponry of their own design, or something that they were guarding during their life. Because of that, many third parties take interest in excavating the tombs. The artifacts can be sold on black market or even used for military research by some countries. Particularly, Columbia is very interested in those. She then warns Grani that the last time a nomadic city was anywhere near Dewville was over 20 years ago, and that such a remote place is effectively lawless. She then asks Grani to help her ascertain just what the nice treasure in Dewville is, as she believes this particular one does indeed contain some dangerous artifacts. After finishing writing, Nerl wonders if she should write the letter in a less serious tone, and then remembers one more important thing to notify Grani of and starts writing again. The next bonus scene is between Grani and Carol in Dewville. Grani is getting ready to leave for Rhodes Island, talking about how Skadi has already left and her infamy will keep bounty hunters at bay for a long time. She then receives the letter from Nerl, but the incident has already been resolved. The important thing that Nerl remembered is revealed to be the fact that Skadi has set off for Dewville without Rhodes Island's permission and is not there on a mission. The final bonus scene happens once again at the infirmary between Skadi and Calcid. Skadi wants to trade the key she got for information from Calcid, who complains about Skadi acting without permission and hopes she didn't tarnish Rhodes Island's reputation. Calcid considers this to be an unworthy trait, to which Skadi threatens to destroy the key. Calcid is a little surprised about her aggressiveness, with Skadi being usually lazy and snarky. She then questions how the key is already filled and hopes Skadi will repay Grani for this. She then scoffs at the farce of this trade, as she doesn't need the key to form a full picture of what we don't really know. Saying Skadi is bound to Rhodes Island and her by a contract, this trade means nothing. She's also aware that Skadi wants to know where Spectre's Originium nerve agent came from. Finally, she agrees to give the information and maybe even help Skadi as long as she follows her orders. Skadi answers she only follows those who are trustworthy, to which Calcid says she never goes back on her word. This marks the end of this story. Now time for the synopsis, sourced from Arknights Terra Wiki, and if you'd like to read it yourself, I'll leave the link to it down in the description. Due to a certain tradition, ancient knights are often buried along with their riches as well as their personal belongings. Drawn to rumors of the fabled knight's treasure, bounty hunters and other parties have roamed remote areas of Kazimierz for years. Around a month ago, however, a chest of gold was found around the village of Dewville, leading the hunters to believe more treasure lay somewhere in the same area. The bounty hunters have been harassing and interrogating the denizens of Dewville on the location of this treasure for the last month. This eventually culminates in their kidnapping of the village chief, Carol. Luckily, Carol is rescued in the nick of time by Grani, a young Victorian curanta with Kazimierzan blood currently working for Rhodes Island. Grani had wrested this mission from Meteorite as a way to see the land her parents came from. After driving off the bounty hunters and getting Carol to safety, the former Victorian mounted police officer explains that she came to Dewville in response to a request for aid. Though Carol initially mistakes Grani for a boy and Grani initially mistakes Carol for a village girl, they work together to hide from the bounty hunter, ending up in a cramped attic. While in hiding, Grani sees her fellow Rhodes Island operator Skadi effortlessly scattering the bounty hunters before her. Grani is confused by her presence, as to her knowledge, Skadi was not assigned to this mission. Skadi's reputation as a walking catastrophe terrifies the hunters, and Grani, along with Carol, attempts to escape during the chaos. We stumble upon some bounty hunters hiding nearby, and Grani defeats them before continuing to flee with Carol, but the two soon encounter original slacks in the forest. A bounty hunter named Big Bob bails them out, offering to assist them in exchange for a portion of the treasure. Though the girls remain suspicious of his motives, they nevertheless accept his offer. Together, Big Bob, Grani, and Carol trek across the forests of Mount Terra toward Mount Mortica, where the treasure is believed to be buried. They encounter Skadi, and despite the Huntress's clear recognition of Grani, she demands that they hand over Carol and issues a warning strike when Grani refuses. They take advantage of the timely arrival of another group of bounty hunters to escape from the Aegirian. During their ensuing fight with the pursuing hunters, Big Bob is injured, revealing himself to be an infected, but Grani defeats the hunters and helps patch up his leg. To Big Bob's surprise, Grani shows no prejudice towards the infected, given her time as an operator aboard Rhodes Island. As they continue their journey, Big Bob questions Rhodes Island's employment of someone as dangerous as Skadi and believes the organization to be motivated by financial gain. Upon arriving at a tunnel leading into Mount Mortica, they encounter a group of reunion fighters. A skirmish ensues, and Big Bob chooses to stay behind and stall the fighters due to his injured leg. Grani and Carol flee, heading to the entrance of the cave said to contain the treasure. Carol goes inside alone, while Grani guards the entrance. Eventually, the bounty hunters and Skadi all converge on her, and Grani flees from Skadi, leaving her to deal with the bounty hunters. Grani heads into the cave, only to find an injured bounty hunter at the newly blasted opening. She encounters a group of reunion fighters who turn out to be Big Bob's men. Big Bob explains that he needs the treasure in order to settle in Colombia and live a quiet, peaceful life. Soon after, Skadi catches up and orders Grani to hand Carol over to her, while Big Bob demands that she hand over the treasure. Grani refuses to give up either. The deadlock is broken when Carol returns with the treasure, and Big Bob attempts to seize it from her. Skadi shields Carol from a non-lethal grenade, which makes Grani realize that Skadi does not intend to harm her. A fight breaks out, with Grani and Skadi teaming up to take down Big Bob. The battle ends with Big Bob's surrender, but the matter of the treasure remains unresolved. Only those who fear not sacrifice and possess the true, dauntless bloodline of Kazimierz may open the path. The key to the treasure chest that Carol holds require a pure-blooded Kazimierzan to use, while anyone without such a bloodline will cause the key to break. Skadi demands that Carol hand over the key, but Carol steps forward to open the chest herself, believing it to be her duty as her family has safeguarded the secret for generations. After examining the key, Grani suddenly decides to use it in Carol's stead, as she too is of Kazimierzan ancestry. The others are shocked by her action, but fortunately Grani survives the ordeal. Peace soon returns to Dewville. Grani and Skadi work together to drive the remaining bounty hunters out of the area, and Carol uses part of the treasure to rebuild the village. Out of gratitude for his earlier help, Carol gives a portion of the treasure to Big Bob before he departs for his new life in Colombia. As Grani prepares to leave Dewville, Carol informs her that a letter has arrived written by Nerl. The letter explains the tradition of Kazimierz's knights being buried with their treasures. Unfortunately, the former knight's warning that Skadi had gone to Dewville of her own accord arrives far too late. After the Dewville affair, Skadi returns to Rhodes Island with the treasure's key. Although Kalcid scolds her for acting without authorization and is appalled that she used Grani's blood in the process, she eventually agrees to take the key in exchange for information regarding the origin of the Originium nerve agent that caused the Spectre's madness. Skadi is surprised by her accurate guess, but Kalcid reminds her of something. Abyssal hunters are bound in blood. They make a deal. Kalcid will assist Skadi with her matters as long as Skadi follows her every word. Months after the events in Dewville, Madrock receives a letter from Big Bob. The former reunion fighter is now living in Colombia and preparing to plant hops with his brothers. He advises her that reunion is not the only place for the infected. Madrock will soon have to make a decision for her squad as well. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I'd greatly appreciate a like or subscription. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!